everyone, welcome back to Cars and Zebras. Today I have another featured drag race, so I sure hope that you enjoy it. If you do find it entertaining, make sure that you hit the like button and subscribe to the channel because I do post these videos regularly, and also make sure to share it with your friends so they can enjoy it as well. I do appreciate you watching, and with that said, let's check out our featured drag race. Welcome to this Cars and Zebras Thanksgiving special. Thanksgiving is generally a time where we get together with our families. We might check out a little football or eat a little bit too much food. And oh yeah, we watch some freaking drag racing! Yeah! But I just wanted to say happy Thanksgiving to everybody, and I am thankful for all of you for joining me yet again. So let's hit it. This is a 1963 Studebaker Super Lark R2. But before we jump into this car, let's take a quick detour, and I swear you guys, it's going to be worth your time. So everybody take a quick break. Come on in, get a little closer. Okay, closer yet, and alright team, let's take a quick knee. If you hadn't noticed, I don't normally talk about the owners of these cars. I do this because I want them to be able to remain anonymous. Don't get me wrong, I love it when they find the videos and they comment on them and they interact with everybody else on there. That's absolutely awesome. But I want them to have the ability to remain anonymous if they so choose. But in the case of this 63 Super Lark R2, I'm not gonna do that because the owner and driver deserves far more recognition than he receives. And the owner of this Super Lark is none other than Mr. Ted Harbit. If you're a fan of pure stock muscle car drag racing or even fast drag racing that's factory appearing stock tire, then you know this car because the Stude Tomato is absolutely infamous. And the owner, Mr. Harbit, is even cooler than the car. He has raced this car in the pure stocks for 19 years now. Last year the car had mechanical issues, so he didn't race, and then 2 other years he got disqualified for breaking out. Of the remaining 16 years, how many times do you think he won his best of 3 shootout at the pure stocks? 16 times! He has never lost. And you must be thinking, well geez, to be that good of a drag racer, he must have a decent amount of experience, and yeah, he does. He's got a little bit of experience. Because he started drag racing in the NHRA stock class in 1962, which he won the Nationals 7 out of 11 years that he competed, using a 1951 Studebaker. And now you might be thinking to yourself, well, wait a minute, 1962? How old is this guy? Well, here's an interview from 5 years ago, so let's check that out.
I will be 80 my next birthday. And I'm still having a ball with it, just like I did 40 years ago.
So if you're doing your math correctly, he would be roughly 84 years old right now. And that makes it official. He's the coolest guy in the United States at this moment. And he even knows more about Studebakers than Uncle Tony knows about Mopars, and that says a lot.
I'm like Mr. fucking Rogers. Leave me alone.
Not to mention, this is how he brings the R2 to all of the drag races that he attends. On a Studebaker flatbed. I mean, who doesn't love Studebaker on Studebaker action? I know I do. Just make sure you don't check my browser history because you'll see all sorts of kinky Studebaker things going on. If you guys remember earlier, I had mentioned how Mr. Harbit used to compete in the NHRA stock class. Now that was between 1962 and 1971, and he won the stock class nationals 7 times. But that's not the whole story. He was later on inducted into the NHRA Hall of Fame. I mean, come on! Coolest dude ever. But I do thank you for joining me on this Cars and Zebras break. We will see shortly if Mr. Harbit can continue his streak or not at the pure stocks. And let's get back to the car itself, because it is cherry. Or should I say, tomato. Stude Tomato. This is a 1963 Studebaker Super Lark R2, and do not sleep on these cars because they will blow you away.
Oh shit! Oh, God.
And And that's because it's stuffed with a 289 cubic inch V8, putting out 289 horsepower at 4,800 RPM and 303 pound-feet of torque at 5,000 RPM. And I know your next question, it's how did Studebaker accomplish all of that from a little V8 with only 289 cubic inches? Well, it's actually a simpler recipe than you might imagine. They took the 289 V8 and then they fitted a set of low compression, large chamber truck cylinder heads. This kept the compression ratio around 9:1. And then they bolted in the magic, that being the absolutely sensual Paxton SN60 supercharger, putting out up to 6 pounds of boost. And we all know that's more than enough to get yourself in some trouble.
Oh, shit.
And that's just the beginning, because that Paxton was cramming air into the engine through a Carter 625 CFM carburetor. And get this, you guys, all Studebaker V8s, not just the supercharged versions, every single one came with forged steel cranks, connecting rods, and rockers. They even all had solid lifters and gear-driven cams. Talk about overbuilt. Now, the interesting part is that Studebaker even claims they specifically designed the V8 blocks to withstand a compression ratio up to 15:1. So that supercharger putting out 6 pounds, that's not going to affect the reliability in the least. These things are meant to take abuse, and it is easily one of the best V8s ever made. Of course, you could get an automatic transmission in these cars, but what fun is that? This one features the 4-speed manual, and it's a T10 from Borg Warner. So it can definitely handle some abuse, just like that engine. And you might be thinking, well geez, with all those great parts, I mean, is the rear possibly a weak link? No. Because the R2 comes from the factory with a Dana 44 rear, with a Studebaker twin traction differential, and our specific car today is housing 411 gears. And here's another major strength of this car, and that is its weight. With driver, it's only coming in at 3,436 pounds. And the price back in 1963 was even impressive. Base MSRP for a Lark was $2,315. If you wanted the Super Lark, that was going to be another $680, bringing the price tag up to $2,995, which, adjusting for inflation, would be about $25,000 today. And that is more than a fair price for everything you got with the Super Lark package, which included the supercharged engine, front disc brakes, anti-roll bars, a heavy-duty suspension, adjustable shocks, traction bars, heavy-duty cooling system, and a 160 mile per hour speedometer. So for all that, an extra $680, not bad. Not bad at all. Production numbers for the R2 were very limited. All R2 engines produced, and this is across the full lineup, was only 2,157. If we break that down into the Lark R2, there were only 327. And if we go further yet, Super Larks, there were only 53. Stock testing shows a quarter-mile time of 13.4 seconds at 108 miles per hour. When some people watch these videos, they question how stock are these cars and are they actually being inspected? And the answer is yes, they are being inspected very closely every single year. And this Lark was even forced to do a partial teardown in 2012, and it passed with flying colors. The only modifications it has are a 0-60 overbore, R3 exhaust manifolds because they flow a little better than the stock R2, and then the rear gearing. That's it. Otherwise, it's just good tuning and okay set of tires and a great driver. But enough talk about the Super Lark R2. Let's check out its opponent. This is a 1967 Pontiac Gran Turismo Omologato, or GTO, for those of you who aren't as fancy as myself. Excuse me. This GTO is absolutely stunning. I don't know about you guys, but I really like the old school colors. I think they just fit perfectly. But my girlfriend, she's not really a big fan of these colors. I mean, she loves GTOs, but she said that this car looks like a polished turd. A polished turd? So I told her, you know what? Maybe I like polished turds, and maybe that's why we're together. Boom! So I've been sleeping on the couch for a few nights, and it's not because she made me, you guys. I wanted to. I like it. Underneath the hood of this monster is a 400 Ho. I mean, you know, HO, high output, whatever you want to call it. But wait a minute, freeze the video. Is this what gangsta rappers were always talking about when they're referencing Hoes? Do they really mean Pontiac high output engines? Because that would make a lot of sense to me, and I guess now I understand their obsession with Hoes. Because 1967 was the first year for the 400 HO, and even though it was rated the same as the 66 389 with tri-power, it had a larger bore. It was 4.06 inches, it had a revised intake, a higher lift cam, freer flowing exhaust manifolds, and of course, the legendary Pontiac 670 heads. Now with those, you definitely gotta run some high octane gas, but man does this engine put some power out. We're talking about 360 horsepower at 5100 RPM and 438 pound-feet of torque at 3600 RPM. You could even get an economy version of the 400, which had a 2-barrel carburetor, and it made 255 horsepower, but they didn't sell that many of those in the GTO. For the first time in a GTO, the TH400 automatic transmission was available. It was $226. But this car, nah. It's got the 4-speed manual and a Hurst shifter. And just like the exterior, the interior of this car is absolutely flawless. Rear gear ratios available went anywhere from a 308 all the way to a 433. This car has 390 gears. The weight of this car with the driver is 3,750 pounds, and if you're keeping track, that is over 300 pounds more than the Super Lark R2. As you would imagine, the pricing of a 1967 GTO was very fair. They started out at only $2,871, and if you wanted that Ho engine, it was only another $77. So without any other options, you could get one of those cars for $2,948, which, adjusting for inflation, would be about $23,000 today, and that was a screaming deal back then. Now hold on a second, did you guys notice that in those two original ads, it showed GTOs off-roading? Let's check those out one more time. And you see what I'm talking about? They're off-roading in a GTO. And then I found this other ad for a Sprint going off-road. What were you guys doing with your cars back then? I mean, geez, freaking 60s. You guys are wild, man. I love you guys, but you're crazy. Production was great for the GTO in 1967. They made just over 80,000 of these cars. But if we're talking about those equipped with the 400 HO, well, that was only 13,827. Original testing of a 1967 Pontiac GTO without the high output engine showed a 0 to 60 time of 6.6 seconds and the quarter mile in 14.66 seconds at 99 miles per hour. But with the high output engine, a good set of tires, and a good tune, this car is going to definitely run quicker than that. A couple of interesting little tidbits regarding the 67 GTO. This was actually the first year that you could get front power disc brakes, and that was going to cost you $105. And it was also the first year of the hood mounted tach. That was $84. But more interesting than that was the stylish red fender liner option. Here's an example of the liners from another GTO that goes to the pure stocks. Technically, you could also get the fender liners as an option in 1966, and even though it wasn't very costly, only $27.50, nobody really went for it. And therefore, only 1,344 GTOs came from the factory with the red fender liners. And as you can imagine, with that rarity, if you can even find an NOS set of these fender liners, they can go for over $4,000 sometimes. However, there are some aftermarket options now, so you don't have to spend that much money if you don't want to. But that's enough talk about these two cars. Let's see what they can do on the drag strip.
Doug Messman has a 1967 Pontiac GTO. It's got a 400 HO, 390 gears, wide windshield, 40 feet. 1939 Studebaker. Doug Messner was 1967 Pontiac GTO, going on to Ted Harbit. Studebaker Supercharged R2 engine, Stude Tomato.
Again, thanks for watching, I really appreciate it. Please make sure that you hit the subscribe button so you don't miss any future drag race videos. And of course, I'll see you at the next one. During Thanksgiving, we generally spend a little time with our families. We might watch some football. We probably eat a little too much food. And oh yeah, we want some freaking drag races! Oh my god. Why do I do this?